A Werewolf Shifter Romance, written by Amelia Hart. Chapter 1. Ashes of Memory. The chill wind howled through the gnarled branches of the towering oaks surrounding the Blackwood estate. The ancient mansion, nestled deep within the Appalachian Mountains of North Carolina, stood silent, as if holding its breath in anticipation. Dawn had not yet broken, and the stars still glimmered faintly against the velvet black sky. Within the upstairs attic chamber reserved for the staff, Emma Richardson stirred from a restless sleep. The heavy quilt slipped off her slender frame as the cold seeped in. But still, she lay awake long before the first light. At 22, she bore the marks of 5 years spent in shadows. Calloused hands rough from endless chores, eyes clouded with memories she wished she could forget. Her reflection caught in the cracked mirror above the worn wooden dresser was that of a woman reduced to invisibility within her own home. The simple gray dress she wore clung loosely, evidence of meals eaten hurriedly while others feasted. Emma had been born into the very lineage of the pack, the daughter of Beta Marcus Richardson, a man whose sacrifice had once protected them all. Yet here she was, dispossessed, silenced, and cast aside. 5 years had passed since that fateful night, the night when ruthless rogue wolves had descended upon their territory, a night soaked in terror and blood. Her father had fought valiantly, protecting the weakest members of their pack from the savage onslaught. His death had shattered more than just her family. It had fractured her soul. In the aftermath, her stepmother, Victoria Sterling, had seized control with a calculated grace that left no room for opposition. Armed with forged documents, whispered lies, and the silent complicity of the Council of Elders, she proclaimed Emma unfit for leadership, claiming she had suffered a mental breakdown and was incapable of transformation. No one dared to question the widow's tear-streaked pleas. Emma remembered the hollow accusations, the whispered doubts, the sideways glances, the unspoken verdict that she was broken beyond repair. They called her the Silent Shadow, the lost wolf who could no longer shift, whose heart had folded in upon itself. With each passing day, she withdrew deeper into herself, burying the once vibrant spirit of a girl raised among legends. But dawn was breaking now. The house stirred as footsteps echoed along the stone corridors. Emma's heart clenched as she glimpsed the shimmering golden hair of Madison Sterling, her stepmother's daughter, and the golden standard of the pack's future. At the same age as Emma, Madison carried herself with the poised confidence of a born leader, her emerald eyes always scanning, always judging. "Prepare the master's chamber." Madison's voice rang out, silk wrapped in sharp steel. "Father returns today. After 4 long years away in Europe, he comes back to claim what is ours." Emma's breath caught in her throat. Alexander Blackwood, the alpha he had become in her absence. She remembered the boy with dark eyes and quiet strength, a close friend to her father's, and someone who had once promised to protect the pack. Now, a man forged by trials and power was returning. As Emma moved through the cold stone halls, dust motes floating in the pale morning light, she resisted the familiar urge to shrink away. This place had been hers once. It had been her sanctuary, her home. Her hands moved automatically, dusting, arranging, tending, but her mind wrestled with memories of better days. The echoes of laughter in the great hall, lessons learned beneath the watchful eyes of elders, the thrill of transformation she had mastered before tragedy had stolen it from her. Suddenly, the roar of engines shattered the stillness. 3 sleek black vehicles crossed the gravel driveway, halting with practiced precision before the grand entrance. Emma watched from a second-floor window, breath-catching as the first figure stepped out. Alexander Blackwood had changed. Broad-shouldered, tall, and commanding, he moved with the ease of a born ruler. His dark hair bore streaks of silver, his eyes burning with a fierce intelligence and a hidden storm. For a fleeting moment, those eyes met hers. A spark passed between them, an unspoken recognition that stirred embers long left to die. Emma turned away swiftly, heart pounding like a war drum. The return of Alpha Blackwood was not merely a homecoming. It was the herald of a reckoning none could foresee. Emma's fingers brushed against the rough wood of the windowsill, tracing the worn grain as she tried to still the tempest raging within. The mansion was a fortress built on legacy, yet it had become a prison for her. Every echo in its halls whispered secrets too painful to confront. The packed society was woven intricately with rules dictated by power, bloodlines, and the ability to transform, the latter being the most sacred symbol of belonging. To lose that was to lose oneself entirely. Yet she was alive, breathing, and holding on to the fragments of who she once was. Her lungs filled with the crisp mountain air, mingled with the scent of pine and damp earth. Outside, the roses planted by her mother bloomed fiercely despite the cold, deep crimson petals unfurling defiantly beneath silvery moonlight. Tonight, if she dared to hope, might mark the beginning of a new chapter, but there was still much to prepare. As she descended the narrow staircase to the servants' quarters, the cold stones beneath her feet grounded her to the present moment. Each step echoed with memories of days when she had walked these halls with purpose, not invisibility. The kitchen bustled quietly, hushed voices and the clatter of dishes mixing with the aroma of freshly baked bread. Yet Emma felt apart, a ghost unseen and unheard. The other servants kept their distance, some out of loyalty to Victoria, others out of fear of reprisal. She ached for companionship, but was resigned to solitude. Hours later, as dawn broke fully and the sky painted itself in hues of amber and rose, the mansion began to stir to life. Footsteps became purposeful and urgent. Staff moved briskly to fulfill their roles in the coming welcome ceremony. Emma's mind remained a tangle of doubts and memories, but beneath the weight of uncertainty, a single ember glowed, a fragile hope. She would not be invisible a moment longer. Time would tell if the shadows that cloaked her for half a decade could finally be lifted. And as the sun crept higher over the Blue Ridge Mountains, one thing was clear. Nothing would ever be the same again. The stately manor, perched among ancient evergreens, bore silent witness to the unfolding destiny of those who dwelt within. The past and future intertwined, dancing in the flickering light of dawn, waiting for the moment when truth would be unveiled. Emma breathed deeply, feeling the stirrings of a power long suppressed deep within her soul. Somewhere, beyond the veil of grief and betrayal, her lupine essence waited patiently, ready to rise again like the phoenix from ashes. For now, the house held its breath. The echo of footsteps in the distance startled her. A servant passing by, or perhaps one of the pack members preparing for the day. She dared not linger long by the window, yet her eyes involuntarily returned to the gravel driveway where the convoy had arrived. In those moments, the weight of her past bore down heavy. The faces of those she once called family flickered through her mind like ghosts. Her father's steady gaze, her mother's gentle laughter, the fierce pride that once filled these halls. But they were memories locked away, fragments of a life stolen by ambition. Emma knelt beside the rough wooden floorboards, pressing a palm to its cool surface as if drawing strength from the earth itself. Her heart pounded erratically, a wild beast struggling against a cage long forgotten. Could she reclaim the fire that once burned within? Could the wolf inside her rise once more to claim its rightful place? Outside, the wind shifted suddenly. A whisper carried through the trees, an ancient calling felt by all who shared the blood of the Blackwood pack. She closed her eyes, breathing deeply, feeling the first flickers of something familiar ripple beneath her skin. Hope. The world beyond these walls was changing, and so was she. With a final glance around her somber room, Emma rose to meet whatever fate awaited her. The long shadows of the past could no longer hold dominion. She was ready to face the dawn. As the first light bathed the estate in gold, Emma stepped into the sprawling corridors, her footsteps steady and certain, despite the silence that seemed to amplify her solitude. Each breath a silent promise to herself. She would not fade away into obscurity. No longer. And so, beneath the watchful eyes of towering ancient trees and the gaze of her ancestors long past, the daughter of Beta Marcus Richardson took her first step toward reclaiming her legacy. Chapter 2. Thorns of Pride. The morning sun pierced through the heavy velvet curtains of the Blackwood Estate's grand hall, illuminating polished oak floors and gilded chandeliers that sparkled like captured starlight. The air was thick with anticipation, the sort that settled heavily in the bones of those gathered within the mansion's ornate walls. A grand welcoming ceremony was underway, prepared with meticulous care and stealthy ambition for the return of Alpha Alexander Blackwood. Servants scurried in quiet urgency, their practiced movements ensuring every detail radiated perfection. Yet, beneath the facade of celebration, currents of tension rippled through the assembled crowd. Emma Richardson, still clad in the gray uniform of the staff that marked her exile, moved like a shadow among the glittering guests. Her gaze was steady, but her heart beat wildly, an erratic rhythm in a sea of poised elegance. At her side, the linens she carried brushed silently against the marble floor, a quiet reminder of her place, a place nowhere near the center of this unfolding spectacle. The center of the room was dominated by a long table, rich with ceremonial dishes and crystal glasses, a tableau meant to impress and display the power and unity of the pack. At its head stood Madison Sterling, the golden-haired daughter of Victoria Sterling, embodying grace itself. Her emerald eyes scanned the room with calculated ease, her every gesture a statement of belonging and superiority. Madison's golden gown shimmered under the candlelight, an intricate weave of silk and embroidery that molded perfectly to her lithe frame. She smiled, a smile practiced and precise, one she had perfected through years of careful preparation for this very moment. She was more than ready to assume her role as the pack's future Luna. "Prepare the chamber." Madison's voice rang clear moments ago, a command that rippled through the staff. She inclined her head slightly toward Emma, her green eyes hardening. "Remember, Father returns with the weight of 4 winters behind him. We must present nothing less than perfection." Emma swallowed hard, clutching the tray of fine crystal with trembling fingers. The sight of Madison stirred bitter memories and an aching loneliness deep within. She was a living contrast, a mirror reflecting all she was not allowed to be: the daughter, the leader, the wolf. As she made her way toward the serving area, Emma's foot caught on a gilded chair leg. The crystal tumbler she balanced wavered perilously, tipping, spilling deep red wine onto the pristine gold silk of Madison's dress. Gasps echoed in the hall. "Careless!" Madison's sharp voice cut through the stunned silence like a blade. Her eyes blazed with fury as she spun toward Emma, who had dropped to her knees in shock and desperation, attempting to mop the stain with trembling hands. Victoria Sterling, ever the embodiment of calculated poise, rose swiftly. Her eyes were cold daggers, her smile a mask barely concealing venom. "Emma," she hissed, her voice dripping with icy disdain. "Your negligence has sullied what should have been a spotless evening. Such incompetence will not go unpunished." Murmurs spread among the guests, some sympathetic, many judgmental. It was clear to all, Emma was once again the pack's forgotten shadow, undeserving of grace or forgiveness. Before the accusations could spiral further, a commanding voice cut through the tension. "Enough!" All heads turned toward Alpha Alexander Blackwood, who had entered quietly behind Emma moments before. His presence was magnetic and chilling, a force that drew complete silence from the room. Broad-shouldered and tall, his piercing brown eyes scanned the scene, fixing on Emma with an intensity that made the room seem small. "Mistakes happen," he said, his deep voice calm but resolute. "Especially when someone is working tirelessly to ensure a perfect evening for us all." Without hesitation, Alexander extended a hand. The room sucked in a breath as Emma looked up, meeting his gaze. The touch that followed was electric, a jolt that coursed through her veins and left her momentarily breathless. "Rise," Alexander commanded gently. "No lady deserves to be on the floor." The murmurs swelled into whispers of surprise and intrigue. Never before had the Alpha shown such kindness publicly to a servant, especially one marked by disgrace. Victoria's lips tightened into a thin line, but she dared not challenge him here. Madison, cheeks flushed with shock and indignation, retreated from the center as Alexander guided Emma to her feet. For once, the invisible girl was the focus of the room. The evening resumed, but for Emma, the soundscape had changed. Beneath the polished voices and clinking glasses, a new current pulsed, one of possibility. Later, alone in the garden beneath the cold moonlight, Emma allowed herself to breathe freely for the first time in years. The night air was sweet with the scent of blooming jasmine and crushed pine needles. She leaned against the rough bark of an ancient oak, heart heavy with uncertainty, yet alight with a fragile hope. Alexander approached quietly, his silhouette framed by the silver light. "Why do you weep?" he asked softly. Emma's voice was barely a whisper. "Because I am no longer invisible, but I am still unsure who I am meant to be." He regarded her with warmth, the warrior's hardness softened by the man's empathy. "You are not defined by shadows, nor by the fallacies others believe." A connection sparked, a recognition reaching deeper than words, a bond forged not by blood or title but by something ancient and true. In that moment, with the night sky as their witness, the first threads of a new alliance, perhaps even love, began to weave between them. Yet, as the rose's petals shivered in the moonlight, the thorns beneath promised a path riddled with challenge, one Emma would have to face with courage she was only beginning to reclaim. The murmurs in the hall reflected the undercurrent of rivalry and secrecy. Many eyes lingered longer than polite on Emma, some filled with pity, others with veiled contempt. Her spilled wine was not merely an accident. To them, it was evidence of unworthiness. Whispers trailed in her wake as she moved, the weight of years of exclusion pressing down. Yet, Alexander's intervention cracked the brittle veneer of their assumptions. His defense was more than words. It was a declaration that the past grievances might be challenged. For Emma, it forged a glimmer of hope, a promise that her story was far from over. Madison, with the poise of a skilled actress, soon composed herself. Her eyes smoldered with the kind of calculating fire that belied her graceful smiles. "The Alpha's mercy is well appreciated," she said smoothly. But beneath her polished tone lay a storm of jealousy and fear. This was not merely about a ruined dress. It was a threat to everything she and her mother had carefully constructed. Victoria watched silently, her fingers tightening around the stem of a crystal flute. Every gesture was a masterclass in controlled fury, a queen cloaked in calm but ready to strike. This evening was her fortress, and despite Alexander's show of clemency, she would not relinquish her grip easily. Emma's mind raced as she continued her duties, every movement measured to avoid further mistakes. Her thoughts slipped toward the man whose return had shifted the tides of her existence. Alexander's eyes had carried a storm and an unspoken invitation, but understanding the depth of that bond was beyond her grasp, at least for now. The ceremony that night was a blur of lights and faces, of voices blending into a cacophony that felt both alien and oddly comforting. Emma found herself retreating off into the garden, seeking solace in the whispering trees and the silver kiss of moonlight. The garden was a sanctuary, breathing with memories and secrets. Ancient oaks towered overhead, their limbs twisting toward the stars. Fragrant blooms nodded gently in the breeze, their petals like silent witnesses to countless pack bonds and betrayals. It was there, amidst the scent of jasmine and pine, that Alexander found her again. His presence was less formal, more human in the quiet of night. "You carry a heavy heart," he observed, voice low and steady. Emma's shoulders sagged. "I carry more than that. I carry years of silence, of erasure." He stepped closer, the raw power of the Alpha subdued beneath his tenderness. "That silence ends tonight. You are seen, Emma, not as a servant, but as a daughter, as a wolf, as the rightful heir you are." Her breath caught. Could such words be true? Could the tides of fate really bend in her favor? For a moment, the chill of the night faded. Warmth blossomed between them, an ember in the darkness that refused to be extinguished. Yet, as much as the promise of dawn called, the shadows remained sharp and unyielding. The road ahead would be fraught with conflict, with those unwilling to surrender the power they had seized. But Emma was no longer the girl who had cowered in the shadows. She was ready to claim her birthright, ready to face the thorns, and ready to walk alongside the Alpha who had chosen to see her. Chapter 3. Buried Truths Surface. The days following the turbulent ceremony slipped into a quiet storm of reflection and inquiry. Alexander Blackwood moved through the estate with the decisiveness of a man bent on uncovering buried secrets, his gaze sharp as the Appalachian frost. His mind churned with questions that refused easy answers. Emma watched from the shadows, a blend of hope and trepidation swirling within her. The Alpha's discreet investigations were like tendrils reaching into forgotten corners. Quiet conversations with elderly members of the pack, scrutiny of ancient archives hidden within the estate's vast library, and the delicate unraveling of silken webs woven by falsehoods. One afternoon, she found herself in the dim light of the library, where Alexander lingered over yellowed parchments and faded photographs. His fingers traced the intricate script, eyes narrowing thoughtfully. "These records," he murmured, "tell a story vastly different from the one we have been fed." He glanced up as Emma entered, his expression guarded yet inviting. "I remember," Emma whispered, stepping closer. "I was trained in our traditions, educated in the histories just like any child of the pack." Alexander's brow furrowed, intrigued. "Why then was this knowledge hidden from you?" She hesitated, the weight of betrayal pressing down like the heavy pages in her hands. "Because truth is dangerous, and some prefer their power unquestioned." The Alpha nodded slowly, understanding the deep cunning behind the facades. Victoria Sterling's manipulations were more insidious than anyone had dared admit. Later that day, a whispered meeting in the garden brought Emma delicate hope. Several elders who had once tutored her came forward, their eyes brimming with unspoken apologies. Marcus, the elder with snowy hair and a steady voice, was the first to speak. "We saw the cracks in the lies, but fear silenced us." Sarah, with gentle wisdom, added, "Your intellect was never in question, Emma. You were always destined for greatness." Thomas, who had stood as a steadfast protector during the fateful battle, recounted with reverence, "I witnessed your father's strength and loyalty that night. You carry his spirit." These voices stitched together fragments of justice long denied. That evening, under the pale glow of a crescent moon, Alexander sought a closer truth. Leading Emma to a secluded corner of the garden, he posed a challenge, one rooted in tradition and trust. "Tell me about the ceremony of the harvest moon," he urged softly. "The sacred ritual that only the highest ranks of our pack know intimately." Emma inhaled, closing her eyes to summon the lessons of her youth. "The ritual begins as dusk falls on the eve of the harvest," she began, her voice steady with authority. "The beta stands at the circle's center, facing the east where the moon rises, and speaks words invoking our ancestors' blessings upon the land and pack." She recited the ancient incantations, her memory vivid with each phrase, painting in words the rich symbolism of the silver chalice, the sacred oak leaves, and the communal transformation that follows. Alexander listened, rapt and breathless, as the tapestry of tradition unfurled between them. "Only one raised within the true fold could recall with such clarity," he murmured. The revelation was more than a test. It was emancipation. In that hallowed moment, the veils of deception began to lift like morning mist. Emma was not the lost wolf they had imagined. She was the rightful heir poised to reclaim her birthright. But shadows still lingered. Whispers of dissent stirred quietly within the council chambers, where old loyalties warred with burgeoning truths. Yet, the very earth beneath their feet seemed to pulse with a renewed promise. The lineage of the Blackwood pack, long obscured by greed and fear, would soon reclaim its rightful place. Emma felt the stirring strength within, an ember ignited anew by the flames of justice and truth. And with Alexander by her side, she would face whatever storms awaited. The days grew longer, and the weight of whispered accusations and silent questions lingered over the Blackwood estate like an oppressive fog. Alexander's quiet but relentless quest for truth led him to secluded conversations and dusty archives buried within the pack's ancient halls. Emerging from the depths of old parchments and forgotten tomes, long-concealed facts began to unravel with startling clarity. Emma, though still marginalized by some, was drawn closer into the fold, witnessing the quiet reverberations of a power shifting under centuries of deception. One crisp afternoon, sunlight poured through stained glass, coloring the vast library with hues of amber and green. Alexander sat at a heavy oak desk, fingers tracing the delicate calligraphy on aged scrolls. Emma entered, her presence tentative but resolved. "The stories told about you are false," he began, his voice low but firm, breaking the heavy silence. "These records paint a different history, one of rightful inheritance, true education, and untapped potential. Emma's breath caught in her throat. I remember being taught the sacred rites, the ancient lineages, how to honor the bloodline and prepare for leadership. Alexander's eyes searched hers. Then why was this knowledge walled away, hidden like a forbidden secret? She shivered, the memory of whispered warnings and veiled threats surfacing. Because truth threatens those in power who wield it like a weapon. Victoria Sterling's grip relies on fear and falsehoods, and she guards her influence jealously. Later, in the shimmering twilight of the estate's garden, Emma met with those who had once guided her youth. Their words, laced with regret and defiance, breathed life back into her battered spirit. Marcus, his hair a cascade of white, spoke with a voice steady despite the weight of years. We feared the consequences of standing against a cunning queen. But your strength, Emma, was never in doubt in our eyes. Sarah nodded gently. Your mind, your heart, they embody the future we hoped for before shadows took you. Thomas's voice was firm, recalling the battle-scarred nights. Your father was a beacon of courage. You carry his spirit, unbroken and fierce. Emma's eyes shimmered. These affirmations planted seeds of hope in the fertile soil of her soul. But the ultimate test loomed. Drawn once more into the depths of tradition, she faced Alexander beneath the silver watch of the harvest moon. The ritual he asked her to recount was sacred, whispered only among the highest ranks, a litmus of genuine lineage. Describe the harvest moon ceremony, Alexander urged, his tone both challenge and plea. Emma inhaled deeply, the ancestral lessons rising with clarity. On the eve of the harvest's full moon, the beta stands within the sacred circle, facing east as the moon ascends. The invocation calls on our forebears to bless the lands and guide our transformations. She spoke of the silver chalice, the sacred oak leaves, and the symbolism infused in every gesture, every whispered prayer. Her voice carried the weight of heritage and the promise of renewal. Alexander listened, awe spreading through his features. Only one raised with true knowledge could speak with such detail. In that moment, chains of deceit began to unravel. Emma was no lost shadow, but the heir concealed in plain sight, ready to reclaim her throne. Yet, in the grand chambers where power's pulse beat strongest, murmurs of dissent stirred. Old loyalties clashed violently with burgeoning truths, threatening to undo the fragile awakening. But beneath the soil, the heartbeat of the Blackwood bloodline pulsed strong and defiant. Emma felt the power swell within her, a flame reignited by justice and hope. Alongside Alexander, she prepared to face the storms that fate had cast upon her path. The battle for truth was only beginning. The estate felt alive, yet heavy with anticipation, as whispers carried through marble corridors and candlelit halls. Each step Emma took resonated with newfound determination, the weight of years pressing on her back, yet her spirit ignited with fresh courage. She was not merely returning to a place once lost, but reclaiming an identity purposefully stripped from her. Alexander's presence was a beacon amidst the fog of doubt. His unwavering gaze and quiet strength tempered the chaos within the pack. Emma often caught herself studying the silent promises in his eyes, the recognition that transcended rank or title. In stolen moments, they shared conversations cloaked in subtle meanings, each word a thread weaving their fates closer against the loom of destiny. Those exchanges bridged the past and the future, forging an alliance that was at once political, personal, and primal. Yet, cracks formed in the shadows. The council chambers echoed with hushed debates and veiled warnings. The old guard clung desperately to tradition, wary of the changes sweeping through the lineage. Their intent was clear: to sever the rising tide before it toppled established power. Emma faced these murmurs with a growing fire, fueled by ancestral duty and a hunger for justice. The blood coursing through her veins was not mere legacy. It was a call to action. The land itself seemed to pulse with expectancy, and under the watchful gaze of towering pines, the Blackwood bloodline throbbed fiercely, unbroken and eternal. With Alexander unwavering by her side, Emma prepared to meet the coming storm, ready to wrest back the truth that was hers by birthright. The true battle had just begun. Chapter 4. The Reckoning. The castle bell tolled sharply, echoing throughout the vast corridors of the Blackwood estate as sunlight struggled to warm the cold stone walls. The summons had been sent swiftly and sternly, an emergency council convened by Alpha Alexander himself. This meeting was unlike any before. The stakes had escalated beyond whispered accusations and private doubts. The truth demanded to be heard openly. Emma stood at the edge of the grand hall, her heart pounding with a fierce mixture of anxiety and resolve. Clad not in the grays of servitude, but in a simple yet elegant blue dress gifted by Alexander, she was both a vision of dignity reclaimed and a symbol of justice long overdue. As the doors opened, she followed the Alpha inside, her steps steady, despite the curious and skeptical glances cast her way. Every seat at the circular table was occupied by the most influential pack members, the Council of Elders, guardians of tradition, and arbiters of power. Among them, Victoria Sterling sat rigid, her face a mask of composed defiance, her fingers clutching a worn lace handkerchief. Alexander's voice broke the silence with unwavering authority. "We gather today to address a grave injustice that has festered within our pack for far too long. The daughter of Beta Marcus Richardson has been hidden among us, stripped of her birthright through deceit and manipulation." Murmurs erupted like a sudden storm, but Alexander raised a hand to command silence. "I present to you evidence that cannot be denied." From a nearby table, he lifted several ancient parchment scrolls, yellowed with age, but clearly legible. These are the original birth records, the lineage archives, and educational logs proving Emma Richardson's rightful place in our heritage. The scrolls bore seals untouched by time, signatures of long-past elders, and records meticulously kept. "Fabrications," Victoria's voice cut through sharply. "Documents can be forged." "Indeed," Alexander conceded, "which is why we have witnesses." 3 elders rose in unison: Marcus, the white-haired keeper of histories; Sarah, the voice of wisdom; and Thomas, the steadfast protector. "I recall a bright, intelligent child," Marcus declared firmly. "She was gifted in our genealogies, wise beyond her years." Sarah added, "She devoured our traditions, questioning and learning, never straying from the path of honor." Thomas's gaze was steady. "I stood beside Beta Marcus on that fateful night. Emma tried to rise and fight with us. Her spirit was unbroken, even when shadows sought to claim her." The hall fell silent, the weight of their testimonies pressing upon every listener. "Yet there lies one final test," Alexander announced, turning to Emma. "To solidify your place, recount the sacred ritual of the harvest moon. Recite its words, its order. Only a true blood of the pack holds such knowledge." Emma stepped forward, breath steady, eyes shining with inherited strength. "On the eve of the harvest moon, the Beta stands at the sacred circle, facing east where the moon ascends," she intoned, voice clear and resonant. "The invocation calls upon the ancestors to bless the land, the spirits of the pack. A silver chalice is raised, oak leaves consecrated, and the ritual culminates in a communal transformation, binding our souls and fortifying our strength." Every phrase was infused with the weight of tradition, a living echo of generations past. As she finished, the hall was bathed in a profound silence, the silence of recognition. Victoria's carefully constructed facade faltered. Her shoulders slumped as the enormity of the moment pressed down. "Enough," she breathed, voice quivering. "I sought only to protect my daughter, to give her the future that Emma could not." A tear traced down her cheek, the first crack in her armor. Madison entered suddenly, her face pale but sincere. I did not know the full truth," she whispered to Emma. "I was blinded by loyalty, but I see now the betrayals that shaped us." Emma reached out, offering a gesture of forgiveness that stunned all. Alexander declared with finality, "Justice has been served today. Victoria Sterling will be exiled from our lands. All properties and titles will be restored to Emma Richardson, daughter of Beta Marcus." The council members nodded in solemn agreement, some with hesitation, others with conviction. The pack's path had been altered, light piercing long-held shadows. Emma stood taller than ever before, the weight of her reclaimed heritage settling upon her shoulders. not as a burden, but as a mantle of strength. Though the road ahead would be arduous, marked by lingering opposition and the responsibility of leadership, she was ready to face it all. Her voice, once silenced, now carried a new power, to lead, to heal, and to transform the destiny of the Blackwood Pack. The reckoning was over. The future had begun. As the meeting commenced, tension thickened like a brewing storm. The Council of Elders, accustomed to silence and subtlety, struggled to mask the tremors of their unease. This was no ordinary gathering. It was a seismic shift in power and truth. Victoria's gaze swept the room like a storm cloud, her bitterness naked and palpable. "You call this justice?" she challenged, voice sharp as shattered glass. "This pack will falter under such recklessness." Alexander met her glare unwaveringly. "Justice is not recklessness, Victoria. It is the foundation of our strength. Without truth, there is only decay." Emma felt the weight of every pair of eyes fixed upon her, some skeptical, others cautiously hopeful. The journey that had reduced her to the shadows was reaching its inevitable climax. Whispers of uncertainty rippled through the room. As each council member mulled over the evidence and testimonies, the fault lines within the pack became visible. But amidst the political fracture, a new sense of unity began to weave its fragile thread. A recognition that change was both necessary and inevitable. Victoria, unable to hold her composure any longer, faltered visibly. Her facade cracked, revealing the fear beneath, the fear of losing a world built on lies. "Madison will continue," she pleaded, voice trembling. "She is the strength this pack needs." Madison, standing near the threshold, met Emma's eyes. Her expression was a mixture of regret and awakening. "Perhaps strength lies not only in tradition, but also in truth," she whispered. Alexander stepped forward, voice ringing with finality. "Victoria Sterling is hereby exiled from these lands, her claims nullified. Emma Richardson will be restored with all honors due her birthright." The room erupted into murmurs, some rising to cautious applause, others retreating into contemplative silence. Emma's heart soared. After years of erasure, her rightful place was declared. Yet, beneath the triumph stirred the ominous understanding that the path ahead was far from smooth. The weight of legacy settled upon her shoulders, not as chains, but as wings poised to carry her toward a renewed dawn. She would need strength, allies, and wisdom to navigate the treacherous waters ahead. But for the first time in years, she felt truly alive, seen, powerful, and ready. The reckoning had passed. The dawn of a new era awaited. The council slowly dispersed, their faces etched with the weight of reluctant acceptance. Within the great hall, Emma lingered, breathing in the gravity of her restored standing. Her fingers traced the rim of a crystal goblet, a tangible symbol of the life she was reclaiming. Outside, the sky blazed with the hues of sunset, the promise of tomorrow draped in gold and crimson. Emma stepped onto the balcony, letting the cool evening air wash over her. The vast expanse of ancestral lands stretched beyond, bathed in twilight's glow. Her thoughts traveled to the memories tangled in these woods, the laughter of a childhood unjustly stolen, the fierce loyalty of a father lost, and the quiet resilience that had carried her through years of darkness. Alexander joined her silently, a hand reaching for hers with gentle assurance. His touch was a balm and a beacon, anchoring her in the present while urging her toward the future. "Tonight, we have taken the first step," he murmured, "but there is much work to be done." Emma nodded, her gaze steady. For the pack, for the legacy, for justice. As the stars emerged one by one in the indigo sky, she felt a stirring deep within, a call that had lain dormant, now awakened and fierce. This was her path, and she would walk it boldly, eyes wide open and spirit unyielding. The reckoning had freed her. Now, the true journey began. Chapter 5. Rebuilding Foundations. The weeks following the council's decisive verdict were a careful dance of renewal and adjustment. Emma walked through the halls of the Blackwood estate, no longer as a shadow, but as a young woman reclaiming her birthright. Each step was marked by both exhilaration and apprehension, the weight of history settling upon her shoulders with undeniable gravity. Her former quarters had been restored, the dust swept away to reveal walls lined with memories, bookshelves heavy with well-thumbed tomes, the faint scent of lavender from linens tucked neatly on the bed, and the faint sunlight filtering through ornate curtains. Yet, what was most powerful was the realization that this room, once locked away like a crypt, was now hers again. Members of the pack began to look at her with wary respect. Some eyes betrayed old grudges, others bore uncertain admiration, but most were simply unaccustomed to seeing Emma in the light rather than in the gloom. The corridors murmur of old alliances and new possibilities. Early each morning, Alexander sought her company, inviting her to partake in the affairs of leadership. Together, they studied maps marked with borders and patrol routes, debated trades with neighboring packs, and resolved disputes that threatened the fragile peace of their community. "You have a keen mind," Alexander observed one day, as she analyzed the pack's resources. "More than many who carry titles or years of training." Emma smiled softly, the compliment a balm to years of doubt. "I learned in silence," she replied. "Now I have a voice." Yet the rhythm of their days was punctuated by the pulse of growing emotions. Their conversations extended beyond pack matters, touching on the hopes and fears that bound them together in secret ways. Every glance shared, every brush of hands during a strategic discussion carried unspoken meanings. One evening, as they walked beneath the moon's gentle glow, Emma confessed, "I fear the awakening of my wolf and the stirring of my heart alike." Alexander took her hand gently. "Fear is natural, but so is courage. We'll face these new beginnings together." But even as their bond deepened, challenges surfaced. A faction within the council questioned Emma's abilities, citing the years she remained dormant from transformation as a risk. Rumors swirled, testing the waters of new trust. Alexander's defense was unwavering. "Her strength is not defined by years lost, but by the fire burning within. I will stand against anyone who questions her place beside me." The tension underscored the delicate balance Emma walked, between proving herself a capable leader and navigating the complex politics of her world. One night, the fortress's tranquility shattered. A messenger burst through the doors, breath ragged. "Renegade wolves attack on the southern border. At least a dozen." Alexander's eyes darkened, his voice a commanded roar. "Arm the warriors. Patrol the east and west borders. No one crosses the heartland without my command." Amid the flurry, Emma's resolve crystallized. "I will go with you, side by side, like my father did." Alexander hesitated, torn between protector and partner. "It's dangerous. You must remain safe." She met his gaze with fierce determination. "I am no longer a girl to be sheltered." The pack set out under a cloak of twilight, warriors moving like shadows through the dense forest. The air bristled with tension, each breath a sharp intake of wood smoke and wild earth. Emma wrapped in the mantle of legacy, her senses sharpening as the wolf inside stirred. At the embattled outpost, signs of struggle were evident. Splintered wood, footprints soaked in dried blood, 2 guards nursing wounds. The rogue wolves had fled, but the threat lingered like a shadow in the wind. As Alexander and his second-in-command examined the ground, the fervor of the confrontation began. An ambush erupted as rogue wolves emerged, feral and desperate, eyes blazing with madness. Transformation tore through Alexander. The man surrendered to the primal alpha within, a sleek black wolf with commanding presence and fierce spirit. The battle clamored, voices lost to growls and the clash of bodies. Emma froze, then surged forward, heart pounding, instincts igniting. A rogue lunged for Alexander's back, teeth bared like deadly daggers. Time slowed. A wild roar escaped her throat. Glistening claws emerged, slashing deep into the attacker's flank, diverting the fatal strike. The power coursing through her was raw, awakening a part long dormant. Her first transformation in half a decade had come in a moment of desperate need, a fierce reclaiming of self. Alexander turned, eyes wide, not in fear but in awe, as the battle raged around them. The fierce lupine in Emma had returned, and with it a fierce bond. They fought side by side, a unit forged anew. As dawn broke over the ravaged land, a profound silence followed. the calm after the storm, a promise of storms yet to come. But in that silence lay hope, the hope of renewal, of strength born from adversity. The pack watched and whispered. The daughter of Beta Marcus Richardson was no longer hidden. She was rising, fierce and unbreakable. And so, under the broadening light of a new day, Emma stepped into her power, ready to face all that lay ahead, with Alexander, with the pack, and with the wolf that had never truly been lost. Days melted into weeks, and the slow rhythm of rebuilding began in earnest. The Blackwood estate, once a place of silence and shadows, pulsed anew with the energy of change. Servants whispered of Emma's new status, and pack members debated the shifting balance of power beneath the surface. Emma rose early each morning, moving through training sessions with Alexander and the pack's seasoned warriors. Her mind absorbed lessons of leadership and diplomacy, her strength growing alongside the wolf that stirred within. She often found sanctuary in the estate's ancient library, poring over tomes of pack history and lore. Each page turned was a reclamation of identity, a piece of the puzzle falling into place after years of darkness. At the same time, her relationship with Alexander deepened beyond alliance. Their moments together were charged with unspoken longing and tentative hope, the touch of a hand on a shoulder, a glance held just a second too long, each laden with the weight of shared secrets. "Do you ever fear what this bond means?" Emma asked softly one evening as they watched the moon rise. Alexander's gaze was steady. "Fear is natural, but the strength found alongside love is even stronger." Beneath their growing closeness, the politics of the pack simmered. Some elders murmured doubts about Emma's readiness, their voices thin veils for old prejudices. Rumors whispered of a leader who had been dormant for too long. Alexander stood unwavering in her defense. "Strength lies not in the past, but in the fire we carry now." Then came the night the fragile peace shattered. A breathless messenger burst into the estate, reporting a coordinated attack by rogue wolves on the southern borders. The pack moved swiftly, warriors gathering with fierce resolve. Amidst the chaos, Emma's resolve was steel. "I go with you," she declared. Alexander's concern clashed with respect. "It is perilous. I am no longer the girl cowering in halls," she replied fiercely. The journey to the border was a silent one, shadows weaving through ancient trees. The clash was brutal, fierce, a tempest of teeth and fury. Alexander transformed into a magnificent black wolf, commanding and primal. Emma felt the surge within, the awakening of her lupine form. A rogue lunged at Alexander's back. Instinct and fear merged into power. Her claws, gleaming in moonlight, tore into the attacker's flesh, diverting the fatal strike. The first transformation in 5 years was more than a return. It was a declaration. Emma's wolf roared with freedom and strength. They fought as one, a symphony of savagery and grace. At last, dawn broke over the ravaged land, and silence fell, a whisper of hope. The pack's murmurs grew into songs of praise. Emma Richardson was no longer the hidden daughter. She was the rising wolf, fierce and unyielding. In the golden light of morning, Emma embraced her power and her future, alongside Alexander, her pack, and the wolf that had always been hers. Chapter 6. The Awakening. The pack had barely begun to breathe in the fragile peace restored when the air grew heavy with a new tension. Whispered rumors of unrest at the borders reached the estate like dark clouds rolling in fast and relentless. Emma stood in the high tower room, watching the horizon restless under the fading light. It was a fragile moment, a cusp between the calm and the storm. The wolf inside her stirred, uneasy, yet eager. But there was more than just the rhythms of transformation at play. It was a bond deepening, unseen, yet undeniable. Alexander entered quietly, the solid weight of his presence a comfort amid the growing uncertainty. "They attack on the southern edge," he said, voice low and urgent. "Rogue wolves, more organized than before." The news ignited a fire within Emma. "I will not hide," she declared, eyes fierce. "This pack is my family, and I will stand with you to defend it." The Alpha studied her, torn between protector and partner. "This is dangerous, but I will not leave you behind. We stand as one." The journey to the front lines was a silent accord. 7 warriors, led by Alexander and Emma, moved through the dense forest, muscles tense and senses sharpened. Night sounds wove around them, the rustle of leaves, the snap of twigs underfoot, the distant howl rolling like thunder. Upon arrival, the outpost bore the scars of fierce conflict. Broken wood, bloodied ground, guards battered but alive. The rogues had fled into the shadows, their threat lingering ominously. Suddenly, a growl shattered the fleeting calm. Wolves tore from the underbrush with brutal speed, members of the pack's enemy, desperate and furious. Alexander transformed without hesitation, muscles rippling beneath sleek black fur, eyes glinting with primal authority. The battle erupted with savage beauty, a clash of teeth and claws, snarls and war cries. Emma felt the familiar surge, the heat beneath her skin as her own transformation began. The wolf awakened in a flash of understanding, claws lengthening and eyes sharpening. In that critical moment, a rogue lunged for Alexander's back, fangs bared for the kill. Instinct took over. Emma leapt forward, the wild roar tearing free as her claws raked across the attacker's flank, diverting the deadly strike just in time. The power coursing through her was intoxicating and terrifying. This was more than transformation. It was reclamation. The wolf she had feared lost was alive and roaring. Alexander's eyes met hers as the fight swirled around them, a shared recognition passing between the two. A bond forged in fire and battle. Side by side, they fought, an unyielding force against the chaos. As dawn painted the bloodied battlefield with soft light, the frenzied howls gave way to silence. The pack gathered, awe and respect shining in their eyes. Emma Richardson was no longer the hidden, broken daughter. She was a beacon, a fierce wolf reborn. The weight of past scars was heavy but shed like old skin. The future shimmered with promise, a horizon uncharted but beckoning. With each breath, each heartbeat, Emma felt herself whole, strong, unbroken, and ready. The awakening was not only that of the wolf within, but of a destiny too long deferred. Together with Alexander, she would face it without fear. The pack awaited their next chapter, and Emma was ready to lead it. For nights before the attack, unrest crawled beneath the pack's surface like a restless predator. Emma's dreams fluttered with shadows, images of fire, fractured loyalties, and a wolf howling beneath a blood-red moon. Each morning, she rose with a pounding heart, awakening the wolf that stirred impatiently beneath her skin. The bond with Alexander pulsed stronger with every shared glance, every brush of hands in the daunting halls of power. Before departure, the elders gathered in grim council to prepare the warriors, their faces carved with worry and determination. Yet even in their steadfastness, fear flickered, a tremor of doubt about what this new chapter might unleash. The journey to the borderlands was a test of stamina and will. The dense forest closed around them, shadows snapping with the crack of dry branches. Emma's senses flared, each rustle, each whisper in the leaves alerting her to unseen dangers. Under the sable canopy, the pack's unity was palpable. Warriors moving in silent synchronization, the alpha leading with unyielding strength, and Emma at his side, her presence growing fiercer with each heartbeat. At the outpost, the horror of battle was etched in every shattered plank and blood-stained earth. Guards, wounded but resolute, told of an ambush more ferocious and calculated than any before. Suddenly, a dark growl tore through the night, a savage chorus as the rogue wolves lunged forth with brutal precision. Alexander's form blurred, shifting into the lithe, commanding figure of the pack's alpha wolf, his roar a declaration of strength that rumbled and shook the trees. The battle was chaos incarnate, a dance of survival where each moment jeopardized life and honor alike. Emma's body responded with primal urgency, her own transformation ignited in a blaze of power and clarity. Claws gleaming sharp in the moonlight, eyes a fierce amber blaze, she intercepted a deadly strike aimed at Alexander. Her growl mingled with the alpha's, a symphony of unleashed wildness and unbreakable bond. Every strike, every dodge was a testament to their bond, two halves of a singular force refusing to be broken. As dawn crept across the bloodied battleground, a hush fell. The pack, victorious but weary, gathered around their newly awakened Luna. Emma stood tall, wolf and woman united in fierce, fiery grace. The scars of the past did not fade. They became the tapestry of resilience, strength, and unyielding hope. In the silent moments after battle, Alexander's hand found hers, a touch more profound than words could convey. "You have awakened more than your wolf tonight," he murmured. "You've embraced your destiny." Her reply was a fierce grin. "And I will never hide again." With the pack watching, the forest alive with possibility, Emma stepped fully into the light of her power, ready to face the future unafraid. The awakening was complete. In the days that followed, the estate buzzed with whispers of Emma's remarkable transformation. Some eyed her with fresh respect, others with uncertainty, unwilling to abandon old prejudices so easily. The path to acceptance was steep and fraught with unseen traps. Emma found strength in every cautious nod, every quiet word of encouragement from unexpected allies within the pack. The bond with Alexander deepened, their stolen moments a refuge from the storm of scrutiny. One evening, beneath a sky splattered with stars, they stood side by side, overlooking the vast expanse of their territory. "Do you believe we can truly change the hearts of those who doubt us?" Emma asked, voice soft but resolute. Alexander's gaze was unwavering. "Change takes time, but with truth and strength, we can forge a future where no wolf is lost in shadow." Her hand found his, fingers intertwining in a silent promise of unity and resilience. Each day, the wolf within her grew stronger, not just in form, but in spirit. No longer a girl hidden, Emma was becoming the fierce leader she was meant to be. The battle itself was brutal ballet of claw and tooth, a primal symphony that echoed the ancient struggles defining their very existence. Emma fought with a ferocity born of survival and reclamation, each move a blend of practiced instinct and raw power awakened. She felt the ground beneath tremble, the scent of pine mingling with the copper tang of blood thick in the air. Her body moved with purpose, senses heightened to a razor's edge. Alexander by her side, the pack in their fury, and within that chaos, Emma discovered a clarity deeper than any ceremony or lecture. This was leadership, fierce and immediate, demanding not only strength, but unwavering courage. After the final clash, as silence wrapped the land in a fragile embrace, Emma found herself catching breath beneath the sprawling oaks. The wolf within was no longer an echo, but a roaring presence. She looked to Alexander, their eyes locking in unspoken understanding. "Together," she whispered, and with dawn breaking, a new chapter in the Blackwood legacy was writ in the rising sun's glow. Chapter 7. Heart's Obstacles. Days melted into weeks, and the fragile peace of the Blackwood pack was tested not only by external threats, but by the invisible battles within. Emma's wolf stirred with newfound strength, yet her heart grappled with shadows left by years of silence and abandonment. In the great hall, whispered doubts began to circulate. Some pack members questioned whether a woman who had been dormant for years could truly embrace the mantle of leadership, and worse, whether her bond with Alexander was founded on strength or pity. Emma watched these murmurs with a growing sense of alienation. The tension between proving her worth and navigating the fragile threads of emerging love wove a complicated tapestry across her days. One afternoon, Alexander found her sitting alone in the garden, the scent of blooming jasmine mingling with the unrest in her gaze. "Are you distancing yourself?" he asked gently, his voice laced with concern. Emma looked up, surprise flickering as she met his steady eyes. "I'm not," she responded, though her voice betrayed hesitation. His gaze searched hers. "Then why do you retreat when I come close?" Her hands trembled as she fidgeted with a strand of hair. "I'm afraid," she admitted softly, "not of danger or duty, but of us." Alexander stepped closer, the space between them charged with unspoken promise. "Why fear what grows from truth?" Emma's eyes filled with tears, a mixture of fear and longing. "For years, I believed I was unworthy, that I was broken beyond repair. Now, you see me as precious. How do I trust that's not just pity or guilt?" His expression hardened with fierce protectiveness. "When I saw you risk your life to save me, it wasn't pity, but recognition of the woman, the wolf, who stands beside me now." Her breath caught at his words. "I don't know how to be loved," she whispered. Alexander brushed a gentle finger beneath her chin. "Then let me show you each day what a fierce and true love can be." Their moment was shattered by the sudden arrival of Marcus, the young guard. "Alpha, the council elders are gathering without your summons. They discuss your Luna." The room seemed to shrink as reality crashed back. Politics, tradition, and prejudice coiled like serpents within the chambers, threatening to unravel all they had rebuilt. The elders questioned Emma's suitability, citing her past dormancy and the risks it posed, not just for her, but for the entire pack. Alexander's response was swift and unyielding. Ignorance and fear motivate these doubts. Emma's strength is undeniable, her heart unwavering. "I will stand against any who question her place." The battle between old traditions and new realities was far from over. As Alexander prepared to confront the council, their bond gave Emma courage. The fierce pulse of wolf and woman intertwined. Whatever storms awaited, they would face them together, united and unbreakable. Their love was a beacon in the gathering dark. The following days unfolded as a delicate balance of power, heartache, and resilience. Emma found herself caught between two worlds: the awakening of feelings she barely understood, and the relentless scrutiny of a pack still wrestling with her legitimacy. Every glance from an elder carried unspoken questions. Every whispered conversation felt like a trial. Yet amid these trials, Alexander's presence was a steadfast anchor. Their secret moments grew in significance. Shared smiles, fleeting touches, and conversations that wove their souls together. But Emma's fears lingered like a shadow. One late afternoon, seated by the estate's reflecting pool, Emma confessed to Alexander her deepest insecurities. "How can I believe that what you feel is real and not born from guilt, or the noble desire to rescue the lost?" Alexander's gaze was unwavering, his voice steady. "Because what binds us is forged in trust, courage, and countless shared moments, not pity." The fragility of their bond was tested when news arrived of a secret gathering among the council elders. Alexander's face darkened. "They question your place," he said quietly. "Your dormancy used against you as proof you're unfit." Emma's heart clenched, but defiance sparked. "Let them question. I will prove my strength not just through transformation, but through unwavering will." The confrontation was inevitable. The council chambers became a battlefield of tradition against progress. Old guard voices challenged the legitimacy of a Luna who had been lost for years. Alexander, embodying the Alpha's unwavering authority, stood firm for her. Prejudice and ignorance do not dictate this pack's future. Emma's strength shines brighter than many who wear titles. The gathering ended in unresolved tension, the war for acceptance far from won. Yet, amidst the political storms, the bond between Emma and Alexander blossomed. With every challenge, their connection grew, an unbreakable alliance of heart and soul. The whispers of doubt would not silence the fierce wolf within Emma. Together, they would face whatever darkness dared challenge their bond. Together, they were unstoppable. The tension within the pack was palpable. The once unified front had begun to fracture, like brittle ice cracking beneath unseen pressures. Emma felt the weight of countless eyes, some filled with hope, others weighed down by suspicion, testing the strength of her nascent leadership. Her wolf roamed restlessly within, mirroring the turmoil of her heart. The connection with Alexander was both balm and trial, a delicate dance between trust and vulnerability. One evening, beneath a canvas of stars scattered across an ink-black sky, Emma found herself sharing whispered fears and dreams with the Alpha. "Do you ever doubt the path we're forging?" she asked, voice trembling with honesty. Alexander's reply was resolute. "There will always be those who resist change, but the future belongs to the brave. Together, we will shape it." The gravity of their responsibility pressed heavily as events spiraled with urgency. Rumors of dissent among the elders grew louder, and unseen forces plotted to undermine the fragile peace. Yet, In the face of looming darkness, Emma's resolve solidified. Her thoughts returned to the oath she had taken, not just to her bloodline, but to every soul within the pack. The journey from doubt to strength was a crucible, and she was determined to emerge unbroken. The bond with Alexander was the fire that fueled her courage, a beacon piercing through the gathering twilight. The coming days would test them both, in heart and soul. But Emma was ready to meet the trials head-on, with the wolf's fierce spirit burning within, and Alexander steadfast by her side. The undercurrent of dissent rose in the days that followed. Emma sat through council meetings shadowed by thinly veiled skepticism. Elders who once nodded in approval now exchanged knowing glances, casting veiled doubt on her ability to lead. "Is she truly ready?" whispered one elder to another. 5 years gone, barely a sign of her strength until now. Such whispers stung, yet Emma met them with steady eyes and a fierce determination. One afternoon, Alexander stood guard behind her, reading aloud passages from the ancient laws that bound their pack. "The strength of our leaders lies not only in their power but in their heart and conviction," he intoned. "Emma embodies these virtues as plainly as any who have come before her." Emma nodded, feeling the remnants of insecurity waver. Yet the politics of the pack were labyrinthine and relentless. Rivals maneuvered quietly, seeking to destabilize her position. Threats came not only through words, but through small acts of sabotage, messages intercepted, support withheld. The pull between her growing feelings for Alexander and the demands of leadership created a constant tension. Nights were restless, her mind wrestling with fear and hope entwined. "We will face it all together," Alexander promised during one stolen moment. Their alliance, once forged in necessity, was blossoming into something far deeper. A partnership of equals, fierce and unyielding. But even love could not silence the murmurs of the past. Emma's journey was far from over, but with each step forward, she carved her own path, a path defined by resilience, love, and unbreakable will. Chapter 8. New Dawn. The dawn broke over the Blackwood estate in a soft haze of gold and lavender, bathing the grand manor in a light both gentle and triumphant. For Emma, the morning carried a charged anticipation unlike any before. Today was not just the celebration of her restored status. It was the beginning of a new life, a reclamation of identity forged through fire and shadow. Her chamber was alive with quiet activity. Soft silk rustled as attendants prepared her for the sacred ceremony. A delicate blue dress, her signature armor of dignity and resolve, was laid across her bed, waiting to be adorned. Yet most precious of all was a small velvet box brought by Madison, who entered with a humble grace unfamiliar until now. "For you," Madison said softly, extending the box. "It belonged to our mother. Father entrusted it to me, to give to you, the true heir." Inside lay a collar of moonlit pearls, their iridescent glow like captured stars. Emma's fingers trembled as she lifted the gift, feeling the weight of generations wrapped in delicate beauty. As she dressed, memories flooded. Her father's teachings, the pain of exile, the fierce hope that had never fully dimmed. Alexander's presence was near, his silent support a grounding force as the moment approached. He entered quietly and touched her hand, speaking a single promise. "You step into your place as Luna today, but you do not walk alone." The great hall had been transformed. Branches of ancient oak intertwined with moonflowers and dewdrop-laden vines formed an ethereal canopy, casting shimmering shadows over the gathered pack. Circles of kin and allies surrounded the sacred center where destiny awaited. Iris and pine scented the air, mingling with quiet murmurs and the high, sweet notes of ceremonial flutes. Elder Marcus stepped forward, his voice carrying the solemnity of generations. "Today, we bear witness to the rise of a Luna, worthy not only of title, but of heart and soul. Emma Richardson, daughter of Beta Marcus, do you accept the responsibility to lead, protect, and nurture this pack?" His words echoed through the vast chamber. Emma stepped into the circle, her voice clear and unwavering. "I accept, with all the strength and honor my blood affords me." The words rang out, silencing doubts and summoning pride in every witness. The ceremony unfolded like an ancient dance, the passing of a silver crown etched with lunar symbols, the embrace of ancestral blessings whispered on the wind, and the uniting of wolf and woman in a sacred bond. Emma bowed her head as the crown was placed, feeling its subtle weight, the promise of both challenge and possibility. At the pinnacle, as tradition required, Emma's form shimmered and shifted. Her fur glowed with a burnished silver sheen, eyes glowing like amethysts. The pack fell silent, awestruck by the radiant Luna reborn. Alexander followed, his black coat a sharp contrast. At the center, their touch spoke of balance and unity, of power and grace entwined. Together, they lifted their muzzles to the sky, a haunting chorus of howls erupting, a symphony of acceptance and celebration that echoed through the mountains, rising and falling like waves on moonlit water. The entire pack, elders, warriors, pups, and kin, joined in. Some closed their eyes, letting centuries of hope and longing pour into the call. Later, as the revelers celebrated and vows were sealed, Emma wandered into the garden beneath the ancient oaks. Shadows dappled the ground as she paused, hands drifting over petals slick with dew. Alexander joined her, his hand resting gently on the swell of her belly, a sign of new life blossoming within. "Our pup will carry the legacy forward," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. Emma smiled, the light of love and hope radiant as the moon itself. "And we will teach them the strength found not only in power, but in compassion." Beside the Luna's presence, the pack buzzed with new projects and initiatives destined to reshape their traditions. Warriors volunteered for outreach. Elders planned a harvest feast worthy of memory. Children ran through the halls, singing new songs, songs of hope and transformation. Later that night, as the moon hung high and fierce above the estate, the Elder Council approached Emma and Alexander, offering tokens and binding oaths for protection, wisdom, and unity. Elder Marcus recited the ancient promise, "As Luna and Alpha, you shape the destiny of the Blackwood name. May spirit guide your path and courage fill your steps." Within Emma, the wolf was peaceful yet vigilant. She felt more herself than ever, her soul forged anew by trial, her heart open to the future. She and Alexander wandered together into the woods, beneath the shadowed branches that had once been places of sorrow. Now every leaf, every heartbeat sang of hope. She pressed her hand to the earth, whispering thanks to all who had come before. The journey had been harrowing, filled with pain, growth, and discovery. Yet standing there, embraced by love and surrounded by kin, Emma knew the dawn was truly new. The Blackwood Pack's future shone bright, rooted in tradition, nurtured by change, and led by a Luna whose spirit burned fierce and free. The estate was alive with promise, the air thick with unity. As the night deepened and the pack dispersed into quiet celebrations and whispered dreams, Emma stood alone on the balcony, gazing at the moon's pale glow. Her journey had transformed her, not just in power, but in soul. She traced her collar of pearls, reminder of her mother and all who loved her. Alexander joined her, draping a warm arm around her shoulders, and together they watched clouds drift and stars blink in answer. The road ahead was unknown, winding with trials yet illuminated by newfound love and strength. She knew there would be storms, doubts, and changes, but tonight, resolve and hope lit her path. Tonight was her dawn, and she would walk boldly into all that was yet to come. The final howl faded into laughter and music as Blackwood's wolves welcomed a new age, one begun not in blood or fear, but in the bright certainty of renewal. The Blackwood Pack's transformation is complete, but countless other supernatural beings still wander in darkness, seeking the love and acceptance that Emma found. Their untold stories of heartbreak and healing wait in the shadows. Don't let these voices remain silent. We've created an entire collection of passionate paranormal romances, stories where the broken become whole, where outcasts discover their true power, and where love defies impossible odds. If Emma's journey moved you, explore more tales of supernatural bonds and second chances. subscribe to join our mystical family, and never miss another story of redemption and romance. The next chapter of love and magic awaits your return.